You're now listening to Let the Jameson Sink In with your hosts, Violet and Pav, where we discuss your anonymous perspectives and tea on real life topics from relationships, sex, politics, celebrity gossip, and everything in between. Okay, guys, we are going to move into the second topic, dating as a single parent. Not specifically around, just dating in general. It's questions like, when is the right time for single parents to mention to the person that they're dating that they have a child? So I just want to go straight into the polls this week because people had a lot to say. There was a lot. There was a lot of comments. I love it, guys. Keep it coming. Like I love to read everyone's thoughts and everything. I had someone who actually mentioned that she was dating a guy and he hid the fact that he had a child from her for about 3 weeks, but it actually just slipped out in conversation, she says. And she would have been okay with the fact that he had a child if not for the deceit. Someone else said, anything longer than 3 weeks, like, what do you have? Like, what are you hiding? Are you ashamed? Or, I think it goes back to the question, like, are you trying to get me to fall for you? And then, oh, okay, by the way, I have this I have this situation, by the way. And at this point, what can you do? Like, you're already in love with this person. And that actually happened to someone else as well. Another one of the comments, guys. Someone specifically kind of felt the vibe in the beginning of dating this person. So this was a guy, actually. He was dating a girl and he felt the vibe that something, there was something there, but she was kind of hiding it. And it was months down the line, like months later, that she actually said, by the way, I have a child. Again, for him, it was the deceit. He said he forgave her in the end, and they continued to work on their relationship, but it just didn't work out. And that for him is a reason why he wouldn't want to date someone with a child again. And that was just his perspective. He wasn't sure why she hid it in the first place, but he could really sense that she was looking for a father figure. And someone was actually saying they don't mention the fact that they have a child up front, so they're a single parent and they don't say up front because they believe that there's a lot of stigma around single parents. But for me, I want to know, is the stigma mostly geared towards single mothers as opposed to single fathers? And why? Trish, what do you think? Do you
I
think
was going
it's...
to say, can I jump in?
Yeah,
So
please.
this topic is obviously quite close. So I've got a daughter, she's 12, and obviously before I met my fiance now, so I was a single mom dating. He's got a kid as well, he's got a son, so he was a single dad. In my dating time though, I kind of went through phases. So I went through, I'm just going to tell them straight off the bat, get it off on the table. But then at the same time, it's like it's your kid, and sometimes you're really, really precious about that. And when you're meeting a complete stranger, if it's like online dating or something, you might want to you're not just going to say it in the first sentence. You might kind of start the date and see how it's going before you tell someone, because it's like, is it that person's business that I've got a kid? Do I want to start telling you how old she is? Why me and her dad broke up, all in this kind of stuff. It's kind of like really personal stuff where you might want to just feel out, okay, is there someone that actually warrants divulging this information? I do think 3 weeks is too long. If we're going on more than 1 or 2 dates, then okay, at this point, I'm clearly interested in you, you're interested in me, and plus, I'm a busy person and I've got work and I'm a single mom. So finding time for all these dates without them knowing that you've had to find a babysitter, you've had to move all these things around just so you can go on the date, I think is a bit shady. I do think there probably was a bit of a stigma for mums, especially if you're dating a guy who doesn't have a child, because his natural instinct is probably to ask quite a lot of questions around, how long have you been single? What happened with the dad? Is he still in the picture? There's just so much things that they want to figure out. Whereas if I was dating a guy and it sounds like he has a kid, I'm probably not going to pry as deep, because I'm just like, I know what it's like because I've had one. The relationship's broke down. We've moved on. I don't agree with the deceit bit in terms of going months or weeks, but I don't necessarily know if there's a time on the first date that you should have to tell someone. Because it's like saying to them, well, I don't know, my dad's died or something really close and personal to you. That's probably a really bad example, but it's like, at what stage is it that person's business to know what you're going through? Unless this is actually something we are building a future, and you clearly need to know, because if we're going to get married and have kids and do other stuff, then you're going to
So
find out I've got
from
a
your
daughter.
perspective then, is there a right time? Like when is the right time to mention that when you're dating as
I
a
don't
single
know when
parent?
the right time is. Towards the end, so like when I met my now fiance and stuff, I was just telling guys, if I was talking to them online, I would tell them straight away. If they asked, like, so tell me about you, I'd say, well, my mum, I work this job, these are my interests. I just got it out off the table. So that way, if the conversation keeps going, then okay, they're actually interested in you. And if you go on a date, it's not going to be something that gets like squandered because they've now found out and they run away. But at the same time, if someone didn't tell me before I got to the first date, I wouldn't be offended. But I don't really know when the right time is for some people. But I think if you're seeing them more than once or twice, then you definitely need to say.
Yeah,
I
I think so.
dated someone that had a kid, a parent, and I think when I first met her, one of the first things she said within the first four sentences was like she couldn't help talk about her kid because she was so cute because this is a mother. So like, naturally it just came out, and like in that instance, I didn't really think about it, but I guess it was nice that it came out, there and then. And yeah, it just made the conversation flow. It didn't stop anything. There was nothing when you think that, because she's actually showing a character of kindness, of of a moral figure, so it's a positive thing. So why would I let that put me off of getting to know her? So that's kind of been my experience with it.
I think it could be quite a tricky one for parents, because it's like you want the person to know because it's a big part of your life, but then I know people who have been judged or maybe brushed to the side by the person they're interested in because they do have a kid. So the next time you meet someone, you're probably thinking, right, let me just get to know them first and allow them to know who I am, because maybe then if they like me, then they'll be more accepting of my lifestyle. So I guess it's a balance thing. Me personally, I say early doors. Maybe because I've never experienced something whereby I've told somebody and it's then been an issue, or I haven't been stigmatized for it, but I do have friends who have been, treated differently for it. Coincidentally, they do all seem to be women that have told me this. My male friends who have kids never had this issue, just like me. But my lady friends who have, they have had the issue where maybe a guy would look at them different, or stop replying to their messages or whatever. So I think it is something that people do look at differently. But in terms of the right time, I would just say as soon as you feel at any point, as soon as you feel like you are serious about this person, like Trish said, once you've gone on 2-3 dates, unless you're just going for free Chinese, like there's a certain level of seriousness that you now have, you know what I mean? So I would say as soon as you feel like, cool, I actually like this person, then you should really be saying it, in my opinion.
I was going to say, like, I've not dated someone with kids, nor do I have kids myself, but just to sort of like basically draw parallels, I guess. Like, sometimes you go on dates and then you tell someone something about your past or whatever, and then they react a certain way. Then the next time, same as what you said, like you're going to have a little bit of PTSD almost of like, okay, I told someone this last time, so therefore I shouldn't tell this next person sometimes. So it's obviously a very case by case thing. Like we can't necessarily speak to what that person has been through, what their experiences have been, what they've had to endure, like backhanded comments or whatever. So, I mean, I wouldn't take it. Would I take it? No, I don't think I would take it personally, even if they did wait a couple of weeks or whatever. I wouldn't see that as deceitful because it's not my place. Like, I'm not going to tell you how you should dictate your dating life, etc. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But just around the stigmas, I mean, the unfortunate truth, I think, is just that with mothers, you're more than likely, society says, you are more than likely going to be the one with the child, whereas the men feel maybe they are more free. So in the dating pool, maybe for a woman to date a man who has a child, it's like, oh, actually that's all right, because more than likely maybe the child's with the mum. So they're not thinking, oh, this person has a child, I need to now be the stepmom. For the women, maybe they're thinking, oh, is there baby mama drama? Like, what if the baby, do they still live together? Does he still have a thing for her? Is she gonna come fight me? Things like that. Whereas when it's men dating a single mom, they might start thinking, oh gosh, now I have to be a stepdad. Am I gonna have to go out and buy toys? And now he's gonna start calling me daddy, and I haven't even planted my own seed yet. Like, stuff like that is maybe, I guess the thought process will be different when dating. Do I think it's fair that there are these stigmas? No, I definitely don't. And I'm very much against societal type stereotypes in any scenario, and this is just one of them. I will say I did have a situation where I dated a guy, and he did not mention to me until further, like we were actually almost in a relationship, that he had a son. It wasn't the fact that, one, he hid it for a long time, or two, he had a son and just waited until we're like deep in dating. It was the fact that it was a young baby that I had an issue with. For me, I would just think, actually, how soon was, like, it's been less than a year that you were with the child, your child's mother. What was that's when I had questions. What was the relationship like with her? And is there a chance you might go back? And for me, I feel like it was a young baby. You should be focusing your efforts on your child. How are you now going to navigate raising your child with this other person? And for me, if you are saying, well, actually, it's going to be the mom's responsibility, then the first thought that's going to come to my mind is, okay, you're irresponsible. I don't want to have kids with you. Or if that's not the case, I'm going to be there for my child. Then I'm going to say, well, actually, you need to be focusing on that. Why are you trying to date me at this point in time when you should be focusing on trying now to be, co-parenting with the mom? And I mean, you're both parents, Trisha and Clarence. What do you think about that's just me. And if I'm dating someone who has a child, I'd rather if it, the child is maybe a bit older, you know now how to co-parent with the other parent, and you now know how, the dynamic with the child. Now I think it's a good time to get back into the dating pool. Is there a right time to get back into the dating pool?
I don't know. So I broke up with my daughter's dad when she was like 1-ish. And then I got into quite a serious relationship maybe when she was like 2. But then again, it's like, you could say, well, it's only been a year. But then if this guy who your experience was with, if he didn't have a kid and he'd recently broke up with someone less than a year ago, would it have been an impact? So I don't know if I wouldn't have given him time because the child's in the way. It would be more the length of time since the relationship broke down. That's more the impact. So they could have broke that when she was pregnant, and he spent 18 months just trying to work together. I don't really have a timeline. So when I met my now fiance, his son was 3, but him and the mom had only broken up like a year and a half ago. And I mean, even now they still don't co-parent very well. So I don't think sometimes, baby mama drama ever goes away. It's up to how your relationship is with the guy, and can he manage, looking after his child with this other person, having a relationship with you and focusing on you and still making you feel like, I'm just seeing you, you've got all my time and attention. I'm not distracted by whatever's going on in external factors. So I don't have a timeline, but I think more the behavior. If you notice that, he's not coping very well, she's always calling him because the kid always needs something, then he's got work and he's got other stuff going on, then you just know, okay, look, you're not ready to be dating or in a relationship with anyone else. But if he's able to manage it, and if he seems really serious, and relationships break down, and I think if you break down and you've got a kid, then it's normally quite final, because no woman would walk away when they've got kids together. You try and work at it as much as you can. So
wow, that's powerful that you just said that. Wait, say that again.
I don't remember which bit it was.
You're saying that if you break up after after having a kid, then it must be really serious.
Yeah, because you've had opportunities before when you don't have a
Mm,
kid in the middle that you really want to try and like stay together for. Because for me personally, no one wants to be a single mom. You want to like work with it with your partner. You want to try and raise that kid together in a two-parent
mm,
household, nuclear family. Everyone's really happy. So I found that if they've broken up afterwards, then clearly there was just something that was
right.
fundamentally wrong. They couldn't work on it, couldn't fix. So
Mm,
that's my opinion.
yeah.
Obviously, some people could just break up and get back together and they're on and off. Those
Yeah.
ones can also happen. But
Yeah.
I try
I
not
don't
to
think
be
that.
too prejudiced on what people's previous experiences were.
Yeah, I when it comes to meeting people, like it goes back to we were talking about broke guys and they can't qualify for just meeting someone or spending time with someone. It's the same mentality. Yeah, if it's within a year, I base on actions. I don't think I think about it in that sense. So I would think about it like, oh, they just had a baby within a year, so I don't know if they're doing this. I think that's assuming. You have to get to know the person. You have to give them a chance, and I think that's all like similar to the broke guy thing. I think you have to give it a chance in order to know if there's a connection there. You never know. So I don't think I would be thinking that a year is too short. Also, I'm aware that when being a parent, they bring you around your kid, and that's a big step. So that's a lot to consider on both parties because you're going to be around that kid. So there is that to think about as well. And I think for some people maybe it's a lot, but at least they gave it that thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what everyone said. I feel as if it's also what you're ready for. And I think similar to what Trish said, it's for me anyway, if I was on the other side of the stick, it'll probably be how is that relationship with you and the child's mum or dad? Because for example, anything with the child, if you're not sure if that person is ready because the child is maybe a newborn or 9 months a year, and you're thinking, right, they haven't yet learned how to co-parent and stuff like that. Trust me, my son is 7 now, and this co-parenting thing, it changes. So even if they did think that they were ready and they do things a certain way, and the child comes every so on, so on, whenever the child comes, things do actually change. So I'd actually encourage you to not maybe look at that as maybe a downside thing, maybe more so look into the person that you're getting to know and try and tap into how things are between them and that other person, because that would probably give you a better picture as to how things could be if you hear that they've had some crazy issues, and like someone said earlier, they're calling all the time and this and that, then cool, you can say, right, I don't really like that. But if you're not really sure, I guess it's something that you just give time, and it's something you just kind of find out along the way. I'm not saying sit there for 3 years and then not know what to do, but still like give that person a chance to show you how they live their life. Don't block your blessing.
Block your
Yeah,
blessing.
it's
Edge,
true.
Edge, what do you
It's true.
think?
Don't block your blessings.
Don't block my knowledge, is what I'm saying.
I also,
I
I also agree with that.
You have
Manifest what
spoken.
you
Let me
want.
speak.
No.
Let me speak. I'm here to listen, but I have to say, as someone on the other side, as someone who's single and doesn't have any attachments, for me, I feel like we're already getting into the scenario where, okay, now, so you have to decide, how is it? How is this person as an individual? I want to take a step backwards to the original question, which is when you choose to conceal that information as a parent, right? What is that saying about you? And how does that impact that choice that you have, but that other person doesn't have? It's the same thing with any secrets, right? You know that information is power, right? So when you choose not to divulge it, you are doing that with a reason. It's either, oh, it's going to be stigma, but you've made that choice for yourself. It works for you, right? So you're essentially, to me, it feels like you're already manipulating me and I haven't even got into a relationship with you. You've already decided
I
that
disagree.
potentially
I
this is going to
disagree.
be,
I have to say.
I'm getting into it. This is why I believe this. So, if you come at it and we're not talking about, okay, it comes out at some point in the day. I'm not saying the minute I see you, I have a child. No, but as to what, my child is here, come and see them. Like that is not what we're talking about. It's presenting that information at the earliest available opportunity where it makes sense, right? If it's online dating, there are plenty of opportunities to present that. There isn't a single online profile you can go on now where it doesn't ask you, do you want kids and do you have kids? If you choose not to answer that, that's a choice. That's a choice you've already made. You go on the first date, you choose not to say it, talk about, what did you do today? That's a common date question. What did you do today? You're a whole parent and your child didn't come up once. That's a choice as well, And I feel like as a woman who dates men, for you guys, for men, it's a lot easier to manage that part of their life or keep it at arm's length, more so than it is for the woman. So for me, as someone who goes into this, I just want the knowledge. You don't know if I care or not. But by choosing to not tell me up front, it says something about you. You may not like it. You may say, oh, it's because people have judged me, but you are taking away a choice. And for me, that is incredibly manipulative and I don't like it. If it starts that way, I'm thinking, what else would you hide to give yourself a leg up? Because you know that you did that because you didn't like the result that it had last time. So you're changing it so that you'll get a better result. But you don't really know what you're dealing with unless you give that information. And why? This is a question to the parent. If you're thinking, eventually they'll come around, do you really want to date someone that you have to convince that this isn't going to be an issue? Do you really want to prioritize that person?
Can I say something?
Yeah, Sam. Why did you disagree first of all?
Because it's not as simple as how you say it. I think it's not as easier. It's easier said than done. Because I'll give you this analogy. If I go into a Louis Vuitton store and I'm wearing a New Era hat, and security keeps stopping me and stereotyping me, the next day, that experience is going to be in my head. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about, damn, I love this New Era hat, but should I wear it or not? I want to avoid these problems. I still want that Louis Vuitton bag. I want to go and get it, but I don't want all these problems. Should I take it off? Should I put it on? And I think sometimes that thought alone can even delay you telling someone or delay you making a decision. So delay you from saying, I have a kid. And sometimes you're still in that thinking process. So it's easier said than done because you're in that process. You don't know if because you were judged last time and you had a bad experience from it, you don't want to repeat that. You want the person to get to know you for you. And you're trying to control it in a manner where it's genuine. And but at the same time you want to be honest. And I think when you have those thoughts in your mind and they're all genuine, that can delay the process of telling someone. And that's also valid. So I think I understand. I have empathy for that.
Okay.
So
I kind of assume it's I've never dated someone, but I think trying to assume some positive intent that they're not doing it because they're trying to, I think going months and months is just they're up to something shady. They probably thought maybe this is just going to be like a bit of a bang and she doesn't need to know my business. And oh crap, now we're in a relationship, I should tell her. But I try to assume that maybe for me personally, if a guy hadn't told me on the second day, I'm guessing it's because he's wary, he's protective of his kid, and he feels like it's something that's not my business yet. I don't know if I ever got asked on a date, what did you do today? Maybe I would just talk about work or something if I hadn't told them. I don't think I ever went that long without saying it, but I didn't always say it necessarily right up front off the bat. I've got a daughter, she's this age, I'm a single mom, blah, 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 because for someone who I'm just talking to and we're just having general chit chat of how are you, and then there's some banter, I don't necessarily think that telling you I've got a kid is your business yet. I don't know. I feel like really precious about it because I'm a mum.
Yeah.
And I'm just I'm not going to start telling strangers in the street if a guy asks for my number on the bus. I'm going to go, by the way, I've got a kid. So maybe I'll wait until we're on the day and see how it's going. So.
And obviously, Trisha, you're my best friend, and we always talk about this. And I always say, if you're a man, I wouldn't date you. And that is because, and it's true.
Wow.
Wait, she knows this. If she was a man, I
know
you.
EJ doesn't do kids.
I would not date you. And I feel like, Sam, you've said the same thing I have said, which is, we're not saying it's necessarily malicious, but if you go back to the question, are you your type's type? You are afraid that you're not this person's type. So you remove that information to give yourself the power to think for longer. And that's the thing that bothers me a little bit. And everyone wants to be politically correct, but with this, I have to say it makes me uncomfortable that you have a leg up in making that choice, and then you decide, okay, I'm okay with what's going to happen, and now I'm going to tell you.
Okay, let me give a better scenario.
Date 2,
can I
or
say
date
something
3.
quickly?
Before you say something,
oh man,
I think the example you gave before, Sam, was comparing apples and peaches. I think this is a better scenario, right, to explain. All right. Is it Love is Blind? There was an episode where there was a bisexual man who went on the show. It might not have been Love is Blind. He went on the show. It's like a dating show, and he withheld the fact that he was bisexual until long into the show, like halfway through. And the woman that he was dating, she said, I wouldn't have had a problem with it if you had just said it up front, but the fact that you decided not to tell me up front is quite deceitful. And that was the reason why their relationship broke down. And I'm the same. I wouldn't have a problem dating a bisexual man, but if you withhold that info, I feel like that is serious information because not everyone would want to. What if it's a man who is polyamorous, for example, and later down the line he wants to add another woman in, or another man, or another person into our relationship? That's something that I would want to know up front. So again, with having, what if I personally don't want children? Not saying I don't, but what if I didn't, and you withheld that information from me? We both fall for each other, and then, oh, by the way, I have a child.
It's hard though, because you really have
I'm not saying I don't understand it.
Yeah, people have lots of stuff, like maybe I've got mental health issues, or maybe I've got like problems. There's so much things that are personal to people, and not everyone declares it on a first date. I think EJ said something like, declare things like as soon as it thinks it's going somewhere, or if there's like a small window. I think probably a couple of dates is stuff you should declare, like bisexuality, children, mental health, those kind of things, so people know when you're getting to know someone, that's when you declare those things. I just don't necessarily think it has to be on the first date. I don't think it's the manipulated situation. It's because it's something that's personal and private to you, and you're sharing that with someone you've just met, and it's more, do I want to trust this person with this information when I'm just trying to figure out if I even like you?
I think it comes to this whole intent versus impact thing. Like, your intentions as an individual could be, okay, I need to I'm not trying to be manipulative, I just want to sort of err on the side of caution. But then the impact could be, okay, but to the other person, it could be like, okay, you've held it. If it depends, like, if it's a sort of don't ask, don't tell policy, then that's a bit thing. Like, oh, you didn't ask me if I had a kid, so therefore, do you know what I mean? Because that kind of leads to, okay, so if I don't specifically ask you one question, are you just not going to tell me anything?
Do you
know what I mean? So I think it's just a very, it's definitely a case by case basis, because we can't obviously paint everyone with the same brush. We can't say because this person was manipulative, therefore this other person that has a kid is going to be manipulative as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't, my preference is not to date parents, but I have done it, right? And I've seen what it's like. I have friends who are single parents as well. Nobody is saying here that parents do not deserve love. That is not the angle that I'm coming at all. Date anyone you want to date. All I'm saying is, when you're making these choices as a parent, really be honest with yourself. And who are you thinking about? Are you thinking about you and your child, or are you thinking about me, my child, and potentially how this person that I may take this somewhere with might feel about this situation? Because you're talking about an MK hat. An MK hat is not the same as a child. Your child is going to impact your relationship, full stop. There is no way having a child is going to be something you can just park at the side when you date someone. And for me, as a woman who dates men, I've seen it too many times, how quick a guy will say, yeah, I have a kid, but don't worry, that's not going to be your problem. What do you mean? And they say it's so easy. Babe, you're talking about issue. That sounds like a me problem, That sounds like a me problem, No, it sounds like an us problem, because I'm here.
I have questions.
Why are you saying this? You're a bum dad, if that's what you're saying.
Sam, what's your question?
I wanted to say, I agree with what you're saying. I think, of course, I think you would want them to declare it, but I understand. I have empathy for the thought process. Sometimes it will not come straight away. I'm just saying I understand it as well. I have an understanding for that. But also, if it's more important for you, you should ask that question on the first date. Because
Ah,
we just met. We just met. That's on
Okay.
you. I can't tell you everything about my life on the first day in 2 hours. If it's important to you, bring it up. Ask me. But I'm not withholding. Maybe I'm thinking, are you worth? I'm still judging you. I just met you. We're
So
dating. I don't know
should we
you.
have a checklist then?
Hold
Right,
on. But,
up
I haven't
front.
finished. Hold on. I haven't
Are
finished.
you
And this is
are you
temporary. Hold on 1
single?
minute.
We have to. That's the first question I
do have
ask,
to ask
because
questions on the
sometimes these
first
men
date.
out here, they be married and trying to come on dates. Are you single? Not married.
Yeah. So,
Do you
what
have
if you're
kids?
coming as single?
What do you mean?
No, you can ask those questions. You can ask those questions
So
if you
I
want.
have to have a
Like,
checklist.
no, my point is when you meet someone, it could just be temporary. I may just sleep with you on the one night stand. We're adults. I don't need to reveal that I have a daughter to do that. I'm not going to see you again.
We're not talking about one night stands. We're talking about
But that's,
dating with
hold
intent.
on. But that's what I'm saying. When I
Serious
meet
dating.
you and I'm dating you, I'm getting to know you. I'm still making up my mind if you're worth me keeping in your life. So that's the whole dating process for me. I don't know what you think about dating.
Yeah, I guess this is why I said it depends on the importance of the interaction, because like Stan rightfully said, you could literally you could be taking a girl on a date just so you can get whatever you want to get from it, and next week you're never going to message her again. And
That
I hope
sounds
that we're on
hella
the same-
manipulative. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Especially
not. Hold on.
the
No,
girl will
hold
say
on,
up
guys.
front
This is real.
what she's
Like,
expecting.
this
She will
happens.
say up front she wants a
Okay,
serious
Violet, hold
relationship.
on.
And
Okay, if
you
you
are
say that,
going
then
out
yeah,
of
I
your way
encourage-
just to sleep with her
Wait, Violet,
and
hold on,
decide you don't want to
the
call her the
reality
next
is
That's not
day.
what I'm
guys
saying.
actually do this. Like, that's why I'm saying it. Not me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Hold on.
like,
Hold on.
like
Just
on the
to
streets, these things are
confirm,
happening.
right?
Pav's like, not me either. I was like, I don't do that.
Just to confirm, if for example I encourage any man, if they do say that they want a serious relationship, to think about it and then let them know about important information such as that. I also encourage women, if they do want a serious relationship, to ask these questions. It's on both sides, but I don't think it's something that if we just met and we're just talking, we're catching a vibe, and you didn't say you want a serious relationship. I agree that is manipulative. If you say you want a relationship and I go back and I'm just working my way through your pants, that's manipulative. I agree 100%. I discourage that, but it does happen. A lot of guys, there's a lot of dickheads in the world, and they will do that. So to prevent that from happening, I'm going to encourage my nieces, my daughters, ask these questions. To be honest with you, to avoid a risk.
I agree with you. And I actually do ask these questions, but I think we talked about it earlier. Sometimes as a woman, if you come with questions, it's like, do you even want me as a man? You're giving me too much headache. It's day one. You already want to know things about me. You want to know things about me. Can't you just see that I'm here? Like it's enough. So no, but I agree. You do have to ask, but it's that answer. Like sometimes you ask and like for me, when I've discovered down the line, it has normally been because there has been nothing that has come up that has made me think this person has a child. There's been no issues with time. There's been no wahala, nothing at all. You've never mentioned your kid. I've been dating you for 3 months, never, ever, ever. And then something will come up like, oh, my son's mom is so annoying. What?
Yeah, that's mad. That's mad.
That's
and you just be like, what? You have a son? Oh
deceit.
yeah, little Jason. I'm like, little Jason's coming up now. Like, how is he coming up
3
so late?
months.
Listen, that's
No, but
deceit.
this happens. Violet just gave you
deceit.
that perfect scenario of she was in a whole relation. It happens. This is what we're afraid of, and that's why we ask the questions, and why I have to think about, but why you choose not to reveal it. Yeah, it may not be my business, but also the same way it's both ways. What I resent then is the response, which is, oh my gosh, like why do you care? Like I should be able to do this. Like there are consequences. You're not going to be as attractive to everybody when you have certain lifestyles. Yes, your thing is that you've got a kid. For other people, it might be, you said the being transgender. For other people, it might be mental health. For other people, it might be their income. You also need to friend it. Like if this is your situation, be as open and transparent about it as quickly as you can, because it's harder, it becomes messier the longer you let it go, and it says more about you. It's then an entanglement, and once feelings are involved, you do hurt people, you know, and you think it was a small thing, and then feelings are involved, and now it's bigger than it needed to be. That is the only thing I look at it. You know, people come on to say, oh, but you know, it is not about whether or not you should be able to date. It's more, if you make these choices, no, it says something about you. We don't function in a vacuum. Like, actions have consequences. You're going to be perceived in a way, and don't come as a parent and be blind to that and say I'm a bad person. Like, it's not my preference. So if you'd given me that choice, we wouldn't have got this far. There wouldn't be feelings.
I think there's a lot of accountability on both sides, because I remember before my current partner, I was dating this guy, and I was asking him on the first date, like, you know, what do you want in the future? Not necessarily where do you see this going, because it's only a first date. I remember saying that, like, I want to get married and have kids. And he was like nodding along, which I took as an indication of he wants it too. And then 6 months in, he was like, I don't ever want to get married and I don't want kids. And then I felt really stupid. And I was like, maybe I didn't ask him properly. No, and obviously those things don't really come up. So I think there's definitely an onus on the person to be honest and upfront at the start. You know, what are your intentions? What is your, like, do you have kids and things like that? And what do you want? But there's also an onus on us when we're dating people to try and like draw these things out. I think never assume in any situation, because I can't imagine I've dated a guy for 3 months. I didn't know he had a kid, and he's just telling me something out of the blue, because then I'd feel stupid. I'm like, well, why would I assume that just because he's not bringing the kid with me on the date, that he doesn't have one?
I don't think you did anything wrong in that situation. I think you did absolutely fine. It's not for you to say, could I have done anything better? You just met a dickhead. That's just life, unfortunately. It's just that. Unfortunately, that's all they see. And if you meet those type of people, you should run a mile. If I had a kid and I was dating and I want to introduce them, I would take my time. I've thought about this. I would take my time, and I'll probably break it to you in a different way. Listen, I have a princess. Yeah, like, you come into my life, you're going to be around a princess. I'm accessing you whether you're going to be around my kid. I'm just letting you know. I'm not going to say, oh, by the way, my baby mother's giving me problems, and I got a kid. I'm not going to say that at all. I want to introduce my daughter or my son. Listen, I have a prince. I have a princess. Right now, I know I just met you, but I've been thinking about it, if I should, let you around her, because I'm all about energies. That's how I'll introduce it. So
that's a totally different thing, though. You mentioning that you have a child and you introducing someone you're dating to your child. It's two different things.
Yeah, so, that's what I'm saying. That should be the process, I think. I don't know. Trisha can speak to this, but I know women with kids that are dating and they don't play around. And I know guys, single parents as well. They don't play around. If they meet people, like, they don't gonna just let anyone around their kid, and so rightly so.
And I agree with that. I wouldn't want to be introduced to the child until I know that I'm serious with that person as well. And I'd want them to feel the same way about me, because then I'd think they're irresponsible every second date they're on. Oh yeah, by the way, this is my child. And oh no, third date doesn't work out. Okay, next one. And then this poor child's hella confused, like, what? Who's this person again? Who's this friend? Oh.
Yeah. And like, it's very different. They're two different things. Introducing your child to your partner and just mentioning that you're a parent are two different things. Even if I know that you're a parent, I definitely do not want to meet your child until we are serious, you know? And this is why, I don't know, as someone who doesn't have a child, I'm not a parent, right? That's why I find it sometimes so alien that it doesn't come up. But through this, I'm understanding more the reasons why it wouldn't come on as quickly as I would like it. But to your point, I'll ask more questions. It's just, I guess when it comes down to it, my worry is, why as a parent are you going to waste your time by putting out prospects with people who are not going to consider you? Because it's just, you can have just as much as a fulfilling love life with people who are ready and even wanting to date a parent. You know, Trisha, you've always been living your best life. You're literally my role model. you had your daughter. Yes, you've dated, and you went through the struggles like we all did, but now you're engaged, and you and your family is going to be amazing, like a combined family of what he had, what you had. And I think that's beautiful. It's everyone can find someone for them, but I'm just always perplexed. Why would you not want to give yourself the best chance to do that, and then almost tarnish your brand by starting it like this?
I do agree. I do agree a bit with Sam earlier saying that you should ask the question, and because as you've made it clear that it's quite an important thing for you, so I would then definitely encourage you to ask the question. But really, I feel as if it is the parent's job to say it. No matter, and I just feel like, this is my opinion, I just feel like no matter what the scenario is, you as the parent, for example, let's say we've been talking for a week, we've never been on a date, some point in that week, if you're anything like me, you'll be on the phone, you'll be WhatsApping. Somewhere it would have, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even saying like start start giving a whole speech about you. I'm just saying, even just the like my son, like for me, I can't go a week without speaking about my son. If this topic wasn't even about kids, I might have even said something in this convo that will involve my son. So it's like, that's why I find it a bit mad that that's what, earlier when someone said 3 months, I was like 3 months, like that's mad still. That's mad still. I can't lie.
Yeah, no, a lot of that is DC. I guess what I'm thinking is I know people where, and I wasn't talking about introducing you to the kid. I was talking about telling them I have a kid. I know some friends that have gone through that process, and after getting to know the girl, because when you be talking, for example, if they have the kid around, be like, oh, yeah, I have to call you back. I'm gonna call you when I'm free, and you're not gonna hear the kids in the background, and that's just okay. He's just making time to get to know you, maybe an hour a day or whatever. But what I've seen is that the guys will make time, like meet up with a person. Listen, I'm really getting to like you, and I have to tell you something. I have a kid, and it's important for me to tell you that, because the next stage is I would like to, like you probably hear more about them, because I can't, like CK and Trisha said, like you can't, if you have a kid, there's no way you can keep that to yourself. Like, how can you go a whole day? If you're talking to someone, you ask them, how was your day? And they have a kid, and they're like, yeah, we're just doing nothing and chilling. You're like, what? What were you doing? That's deceit. But I feel like there's also ways where you can break it, where it may have taken more than a day or 2 days to tell the other person, in your way, and it's because you're watching out for yourself and your kid, and I think that's fine. You're watching out for yourself and your kid.
And I guess this is why I said I don't really think there's a time frame for it, because I know some people take longer than others to figure out if they're serious about someone. And if you are a private person, you're not the kind of person that, shares a lot about your life or whatever, and you don't want some random guy that your friend has introduced you to or whatever to know that you have a kid, then I guess that's your choice. But I guess we just have to use wisdom, man, because
the truth always comes out after 2 days. If you're saying, I'm just.
How about this in contrast? There was one response. It was from a guy, and he said, "Well, I think that I'm young enough and successful enough that his preference is not to date a single mother." He's like, "Well, why should I date someone who has a child when I can date someone who doesn't, and we can start a family by ourselves?" Do you think it's an unfair preference? Do you think so? So Edge and this guy, they both prefer not to date. So Edge, if you had a preference, you'd rather date a man who doesn't have a child over someone who has a child. Do you think that's unfair as being parents? And do you think that single parents, because someone else said, I think single parents should just date other single parents because you're both in the situation. You both understand how you can navigate through life. You both understand the co-parenting thing. You both understand the family dynamic. You're on the same, it's back to what Edge was saying before. You're both at the same stages of life. Do you think that is how, do you think it's just easier and less messy as such, open and closed?
I think it's easier. I mean, me personally, so I've got one, my fiance's got a son, and it's just easier because he understands if I can't do something this weekend because my daughter's got a birthday party or something, or can't get a babysitter, he appreciates that, and vice versa. If he's got to take his son to school, it's his weekend. When we were first dating in the beginning, that is, that there's just a mutual understanding. Saying that, I'm a bit biased because I've got one kid, he's got one kid, it's fine. However, I know my sister's dating a guy, he's got 2 kids with 2 women, and to me, that just sounds like headache and stress. So I think even within single parents, there's different single parents you don't want to date. And the more kids and baby mothers and drama they have, I'm going to be selective and be like, well, I've just got my daughter's dad. we get on quite well. We're able to communicate. There's no like animosity or hostility. Whereas if I see a guy, he's got 3 kids with 3 women, 2 of them he doesn't speak to, one of them is like, there's just too much drama. Again, I might say, oh, to be honest, I don't really want to date a guy. He's got kids, but he's just not for me. I don't think we should put people in brackets like single people only date single people, because some people might not have kids through choice. Like I've got a friend, she would love to have kids, but physically she can't. So she wants to adopt, but her partner's got kids and she loves them as her own, and she's, you know, taking them on board as hers. So I think there's just so many gray areas and blurred lines. And I don't think it's unfair if EJ doesn't want to date some kids. That is absolutely her prerogative, because why should she, when she's not had any, she doesn't have her own with a biological bond, have to be looking after someone else's? She wants to do that journey with someone else who doesn't have kids. They want to do it together for the first time. It's actually quite amazing, I think, if you have a kid with someone and it's both your first and, you know, you're both really happy. It's a different experience. I'm not doing that now, but it doesn't change how we feel about, you know, what we've been through and the love we have for each other's kids and vice versa. It's like his son is mine and he calls my daughter his stepdaughter and everything. So it's not unfair, but I can see why people have those barriers in place. And it's to protect them as much as it is to protect the other person who they've got stuff going on that they just can't handle. And that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
I'll add to that as well that there are some single people, like single females, from my experience that I know of, that have actually wanted to get with single fathers to introduce them into motherhood and parenthood. And the growth has been amazing. So it's almost like they didn't know like what they could be until they were a mother, if that makes sense. And yeah, it just developed them in a whole different way, and they become like different people, amazing people. And now, you know, it's something that they're looking forward to their own kid. So I've heard that talk among women, and I was surprised to find out as well, because I thought, you know, as human beings, everyone would want to have a kid with their own other significant other, but there are some women that would like to be introduced to it almost, and then before having it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I think Violet said something earlier about the preference. Is it bad to have that preference? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Preferences, I feel as if preferences only become offensive when people kind of get defensive about not being chosen. So I don't know, like outside of this whole podcast, I could have slid into Edge's DMs and said, yo, let's go out. I mean, where are you again? Toronto. I'm in Canada.
Toronto.
Let's go out. Toronto. All right, cool. I'm in Toronto. I'm in your city, as people say on social media. And let's go out wherever. And then she might just get to know me and say, oh, you have a child. Like, I'm not really interested. Now, it's up to me how I process that information. I can either look at that as, okay, she's a young lady. She's human, so she has a choice. And she has decided that she does not want to date somebody with a child. But, you know, some guys, they'll just start to get upset. So I guess it just depends how you look at it. Because I do have friends who have been treated like that, like I said earlier. And as a result of it, they kind of got really upset and kind of, you know, defensive about it. So I guess it just depends on how you take the information. But to have that preference is not a bad thing, I don't think. It's like any preference, you know. Not any, but you know what I mean.
Pav, would you date a single mother?
Yeah, I think I would. I wouldn't. That's just like my own, so I don't want to like get too much into it, but basically my dad was married before and he had a daughter from that marriage, and basically it was a bit complicated with that. So she went with the mum, and my dad was like, yeah, it's not my problem anymore, but it was like really messy sort of divorce. So when he married my mum, he told her straight up, like, I've got a daughter from this marriage, but it's a complicated thing. She's probably not going to come back into my life. Then about 12 years later or something, she did come back into, like, she ran away from home, and she found my parents, and yeah, but then my dad straight away said no, because I promised my wife that that I wouldn't get involved with I made a promise kind of thing. But yeah, now I've got and my older sister's here, like we have a great relationship. She has kids and they call me uncle and stuff. Like, so for me, I would find it a bit contradictory on my part to not
Mm.
rule someone out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because they're a single mum.
Yeah,
So that's just
an
me.
interesting perspective, you know.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, that's an interesting
Wow.
perspective.
Thanks for sharing that, Pav.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing, Pav. And it's situations like Pav's that really tell you
Makes it
there
real
is,
life.
there's
Yeah, for
value.
real.
There's value in giving people chances. There's value in considering stuff, and you shouldn't be completely closed off to your preference. It should be based on the behavior. For me, it's always give me the information up front, and I can make a choice. I've always, it's not my preference, but I'm telling you from life experience that I have dated parents, and these are the things that have come up, right? And because I have that experience, I know that remains my preference. But if I met a parent at work and I fell in love, I'm not going to suddenly be like, oh, I'm not feeling these feelings because they're a parent. I would pursue that, but then I'd have to look at their behaviors, right? And sometimes, in my experience, parents can especially when they're new to it. Say they haven't dated before, which I'm coming across more and more now. The older I get, it's people who have had kids in the late 20s, just with someone that they thought they were going to settle down with, and then potentially it hasn't worked out. I'm coming across more and more of those guys. And they think it's their first time. They're like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal because they've not gone through it before. They're not actually prepared for what it means to handle all of those things because they're a new parent, they're this, they're that. Same to what Violet was saying about how long is it. So then that also comes to play a part. I've also dated people who they had their kid when they were really, really young. They didn't even realize what being a parent was, but now their child is grown, has its own schedule, and they don't even want to hang out with their parent. So the parent is now back dating because they have time and their kid is okay. That's a very different situation than dating someone who's literally baby in arms, needs to pay for daycare, which daycare, I was speaking to my friend today, apparently it's 2.5k GBP per month, one child.
Yeah, girl,
Imagine
it's
that.
expensive. I had a friend who used to, like, her whole salary, like as soon as she got her salary payment for the month, would go to the child's daycare. And I used to say, well, why bother work? I'd rather stay home. Like, why am I going to work just to pay for this one daycare? I'd rather just stay home with the child. And I know that's just me. That's my own perspective. Yeah, it's hella expensive.
Yeah, no, my sister-in-law was thinking about it actually. My sister-in-law, when she was after she gave birth, she had to go back to work, and she was comparing it, the cost that she was, that she still had to pay now that she's back at work, because it's basically netting off to almost zero. And it's like sometimes you're like, why don't I just stay at home? And but I guess that's something that I don't know. No one has figured out. But I think that's mainly because she wanted to get back on a career ladder. You have to give yourself that chance if you want to get back on that career ladder, get back into work, and slowly progress and within the field that she was in. She wanted to get promoted, but within the first year when she went back, it was definitely tough. She was thinking, "What's the point of this? I might as well stay at home, avoid paying childcare fees. It's definitely expensive."
You need to be honest with yourself, as a single.
Kids are beautiful though. It's definitely worth it. Even like where I'm dating, like a single parent and being around kids, there's an intangible um asset to it that we don't talk about. But really and truly, when you're around them, the things they add on to you, the effects, the benefits, like none of it is being touched on here. But the effects of it, when you're around a kid, it just brings everything down to earth. You get more motivated. It's intangible. I can't explain it. But that's not talked about when we talk about these type of conversations. And it's an amazing thing. So I don't know. I'll just say that.
Sam, it sounds like your preference is a parent over a single non-parent.
I don't think I have a preference. I'm just open to it because I have a brother-in-law, I have a sister-in-law. I have so many, like my sisters, I have similar situations like Pav just mentioned. So, I guess you don't talk about your experiences. This is all my experiences, and I've seen both. So that's why I'm open to it. The reason why I'm open to it is because I guess I've seen it and I've witnessed it. And yeah, so both sides, I'm open to both. But I think ideally, I would love to have a kid with with a woman that hasn't had a kid before. I think every human thinks like that. But I'm also open to that other idea because I've kind of seen it.
Okay. Well, guys, we are at the end of our discussions, and we really appreciate you all for coming and sharing your experiences with us today and just talking through these topics. I'm just going to conclude really quickly. With regards to finances in a relationship, it's very much, I think, based on your own personal experience and probably things that we've been exposed to. So ultimately, what defines, us in this day and age is kind of confusing, or, what defines what we are interested in, our preferences. And there's no genuine high net worth individual who will necessarily be the right person for you. It could be someone who isn't a high net worth person. And equally, it could be the opposite. The person for you could be someone who's high net worth. I don't think we should just base income. I think income's important, but it shouldn't just be the one and only thing that we look for when dating. Additionally, perception is big. Someone who's earning a lot may appear desirable, but they might not be living the lifestyle that is compatible with yours. They might not be financially literate. They might be living paycheck to paycheck, or vice versa. There could be someone who is not in the high performing, high net worth bracket, but actually they're financially better off because they are better with their money. They're more financially literate. Some parallels can be drawn from this as well. It's all around, are you a type? When it comes to dating as a single person who doesn't have children and dating as a single parent, I think it's down to preference. One quote that we drew upon while we were discussing is, withholding information could come down to intent versus intention. The single parent may have good intentions, wishing to, withhold certain aspects of their personal life. However, you could look at it from the other person's perspective, the receiving party. They may take this in a negative way. They might think that, you're withholding information to make yourself seem more desirable, and you're taking away the choice that they have in, deciding if they would like to continue down this road or not. And also think about it from your own perspective. Would you prefer to date someone who is more open to your current situation, or try to convince someone to be with you in your current situation? So ultimately, being open, communication, transparency, setting expectation, asking all the right questions, all of this hopefully leads to, great relationships and less heartbreak as a result.
All
right, guys.
That was amazing. That was amazing. I just want to say thank you for inviting me. I love this topic. I think we've got to talk about some profound stuff on here, and especially now where you see a lot of man versus women. It doesn't help with me wearing this jumper, but I'm representing the new man. But it's just really just talking about all of these things that are now kind of like problems within our generation. And I love the fact that you guys, talk about and open up the platform to discuss these things. I love it. Keep it up.
Thanks. So remember, there's no right or wrong answers or opinions. We're just here to share different perspectives and sort of hope that everyone learns something from it and takes something away from the discussion, including ourselves. So Edge, Clarence, Trisha, Sam, thanks for joining us today. You guys have been amazing, and I know it's a bit late in the day for the UK guys, so I appreciate you guys taking the time out as well. If to the listeners, if you would like to take part in the next month's podcast episodes, just remember to follow us at letthejameson.podcast on all platforms. Reply to us in our inbox with your anonymous responses to the weekly dilemmas, and don't forget to tune in the last Sunday of every month for the podcast episode. We're your hosts, Pav and Violet. Thank you for listening. Always drink and share responsibly. Thanks, guys. Catch you guys later.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
To send in your anonymous responses to the weekly dilemma and to get a preview of the next episode's topics, follow us at letthejameson.podcast on all platforms. We're your hosts, Pav and Violet. Thank you for listening. Always drink and share responsibly.